I was there for that and for the draft. So yes, a lot of things happening. I just wasn't there today for that news that dropped.
How much does this mean to the city of Washington and the District of Columbia having the NFL draft in Washington in 2 years from now?
Yeah, I think it's huge because I don't recall it ever being here, and that brings in a lot of money. If you think about past drafts, someone was talking about the one that was held in Detroit last year, and the millions of dollars that was brought to that areas because of the draft, because there's a lot of revenue that is made because of that. So I think the excitement for it to be here for the first time, being that this team is really on the right track, and to have possibly even a Super Bowl here with that new stadium that's supposed to open up in 2030. So it's a lot of great things happening as far as with the draft being here, what that would mean for the city. Down there on the mall, if anybody has ever been to the DC area and been to the mall area where, you know, the monuments and all of that is, to have the draft there, do you know how much energy that will be for not just the Washington, D.C., but for fans that's watching for the first time it being here in the nation's capital. So it's like I said, it just does wonders for this community in building, moving this team forward. And then later on to have the stadium built back at RFK, that location. It's just like one great thing that's happening with this community for us, the Commanders, get back on the right page, being that they were successful last year with their new quarterback in Jaden Daniels and what that team was able to do getting to the championship game. I think that that's the reason why you're seeing some of these things happening is new leadership for this Commanders team is moving this team forward in the right direction. So, you know, to hear all these things is happening now with this team and to be entrenched with a draft in 2 years is pretty special, especially if they have a successful season again this year.
I was at the NFL draft last year in Detroit, and it was just amazing. 275,000 people on opening night, a record 750,000 people. And from what I see, the NFL draft it's gone from being in a hotel room in downtown New York back in the 70s and 80s to now it's probably as big, if not bigger, than the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
It's a moneymaker. I mean, that's what it's all. I mean, we used to learn about the schedule at the end of April after the draft was done. The NFL schedule came out. So now they're making that a big production that's supposed to happen May the 14th. So you're right, Chris. It goes from a small hotel room where it's just a few people in the room. And if you thought the record crowds were there in Detroit, and Detroit is really fantastic for fan support and those people showing up. But you're talking about the Washington, D.C. area down in the mall area where it's so much more room to bring in so many more people. So if you had record crowds in Detroit, imagine in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, that you have that kind of crowd here. It should be record crowds here in a couple of years when it's here in the nation's capital. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, everything is about money for the NFL. All of these productions that used to just be announcements, it used to be simple, but now it's a moneymaker where they're involving fans more to give them that experience.
Gonna ask you this, Donna. How did the NFL draft come about with Washington? Is it because of the new stadium, possibly at the RFK site? And also, is this a kind of a feeler to see if Washington could support a Super Bowl in their new stadium in 5 years from now?
Yeah, you're talking about the draft that came about in 2027 for the Commanders having it here.
Yes.
I think it was just a working of deals that you look at, you know, them getting the stadium back in DC. Probably it wouldn't have happened if that stadium wasn't going back in DC. If it was Maryland, I'm not for sure if the NFL draft would have been here in 2027. But when it comes back home to the nation's capital, I think that that's the reason why you got that draft being back here is because the stadium is supposed to be back here also if everything works out. So I think that's the reason why they got that 2020 draft here in DC, building for this team to be back in DC. And at the press conference last week, Roger Goodell was asked about the Commanders possibly getting a Super Bowl, and he did not say no, but it kind of like the stadium that they're building as far as with the roof, because the Super Bowl is in the winter months and in the heart of winter. And you remember back then when the Giants had that Super Bowl there, they were lucky that it was a little warmer that day, because normally it's bad weather in New York during that time and just in general. But I think that everything with this stadium having a roof on it, that it opens the door for the Commanders to have a Super Bowl here, because most of the time in the past, it was warmer places that you had Super Bowls in the California area, Las Vegas, Arizona, Miami, in the Florida area. And now you see a lot of different, even in Jacksonville, Florida. But now that the new stadium is supposed to seat 65, that's huge, but it's not as huge as some of the old stadiums and some of the other stadiums. But it's a more intimate stadium. If you look at the layout of the stadium, the pictures that they shared and everything, it looks a little bit like SoFi, and that's what Josh Harris had looked at last year at various new stadiums that's going up. And it's a little bit like Seattle's, if you've been to Seattle, where it's kind of like compact in a little bit, where the people are not so spread out like the stadium, Northwest Stadium right now. But I think that everything was building for this team to get a Super Bowl, and everything that you're seeing as far as the draft being here and the Commanders going back home, it all trickles around to say that a Super Bowl will be in Washington, D.C.
I know the cost of Buffalo's new stadium was $2.1 billion for an outdoor stadium with a little bit of a roof on it, but otherwise it's going to be natural. Washington, what are they looking at a cost for this new stadium, and how much would the taxpayers be on the line for it?
Yeah, I know that Josh Harris is putting up $2.7 billion of his own money, and that's just for the stadium. And then if you look at the campus that's going to be built around that 180 acres of land, it's going to be a sports complex center. It's going to be some greenland and parks and all of those areas, affordable homes. If you looked at Nets Stadium, if anybody lives in the Washington, D.C. area, they shared last week, Nets Park used to just be an area that was not built up and developed. And when you look at it now, it's got housing, it's got restaurants, it's got everything that would bring people into that area. Now, the infrastructure, as far as the highways and all of that to get people in and out, that's when you look at it right now, and it's kind of tough because they would have to do a lot of things. But the good thing about it, as they told us last week, is this stadium is in the area. It was a stadium there. So it's the perfect area to just put another stadium there, because the metro is literally right across from the stadium. You get off the metro and you cross the street and you're in the stadium. So that's the reason why I think it's perfect. So even though they only mentioned 8,000 parking places, that's nothing when you think about a stadium and all the people who come, to games on game day. But they're banking on the fact that people will ride the metro. A lot of people will ride the metro, and they can ride the metro from the DMV, as far as Virginia, Maryland, and DC. That metro stops, starts in those areas that they can come into to the stadium area. But the taxpayers are going to have to foot a bill too. And I'm not for sure all the final numbers with that. They shared some with us, and even Josh Harris with the $2.7 billion that will go just for the stadium. He's going to be paying more money, millions of dollars, in helping to develop that area around the new stadium. And it won't be necessarily probably called RFK Stadium. I'm not for sure what it's going to be called. And just to throw this in, people are talking about will the name come back? Josh Harris them said, you just want to put that to bed, because they are happy with the Commanders. And I think that people need to kind of like get off the name right now, because it's more about producing a winning team and also getting this stadium built and those things that's going to really, bring people in. They talked about ticket prices too. A lot of people are like, if you look at the amount of money that's going into building this stadium, we know that ticket prices are going to be high. And Josh Harris said that he's trying to make it affordable for where families can still come. Hard to believe, Chris, that back in the day, Josh Harris said you could buy a ticket for $12. Well, those days are long gone about a ticket for $12. So it's a lot of moving pieces. And I think that the Commanders, when this is all said and done, will probably close to $3 billion versus 2.7.
Do they have a plan B in case city council doesn't pass this? And when is the date when they're supposed to make a decision on the stadium?
Yeah, I think that, they said, and they have it broken down into areas when the council, as far as voting on that, because they're talking about breaking ground in 2026. So that decision needs to be coming this year as far as the council people. And I think that they are looking at that it's going to happen in here, because when you look at for 30 some years, nothing was done with this land. And if the council people are looking at, hey, you know what, we want to develop other things in this area. Well, you had 30 some years to do this, and this 180 acres of land just sat there being not being developed. So I think that the Commanders do have a plan B if that's happening, but they're putting all their marbles in. This is going to happen one way or the other. And we know how deals happen where people don't want to give up their land, and they're supposed to have a meeting with the community, get their buy-in of what they think, because a lot of people, even though they said that people wouldn't be displaced around the stadium, because when you look at the structure, the homes are pushed back. But again, what is affordable homes? Affordable homes look quite different to the people who live in that area than it does for the people who are fitting the bill. When they talk about affordable homes, the low incomes and the middle class people, their affordable homes definition is much different than the people that are footing the bill and everything for this when they say affordable homes.
Now, the capacity of the current stadium is what, 90,000? Will they shrink the capacity for this new stadium at RFK?
Yeah, I mentioned early that it's going to be 65.
65, okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be shrunk down. But I think that when you look at the land that you have out there in Landover versus the land that you have there, and they're going to house it right there where our RFK is. So you don't have to kind of like stretch it out, build it in. So it's going to be more compact in versus being stretched out. Because if you look at the stadium now, people that's up in the nosebleed area and everything, they feel like they're so far away. Even though they can see the field, you feel like that, gosh, I'm up here giving Jesus high fives and so forth. So this one is going to be much better when you look at the layout. And if you've been to SoFi Stadium, every area in that stadium, it feels like that you're right there close to the team on the field area. So I think that that's what they're looking at, as far as this whole process. So a lot, Chris, that needs to be worked out. But first thing is the council people, they need 7 votes. They had 4 people there, at that event last Monday. But though that, they're talking, like I said, to the community right now. They're talking to the council people. Everybody is weighing in on this. But I think, again, when you have this much money being put up by Josh Harris and the team, you're not going to get $2.7 billion to develop that land from anybody. So if you're getting that kind of money from an owner to help you develop that area where you don't have to really foot much of the bill, I mean, millions of dollars, $30 million or whatever that ticket may be for DC to foot. And, they're still working with their budget. I would say that it's a win-win deal, to take. But again, you still have to consider the people who live in that area and get their input too. But again, nothing had been done for that land in 30 years where when the Commanders left RFK, it's been dormant and nothing's been taking place. I mean, a few college games and so forth, but for the most part, it's been a dormant dry land that has just been dying each and every year.
I was reading an article today from the 1992 Washington Post with the late Jack Kent Cooke having a deal to have a stadium built right beside that stadium. I'm curious to see what remember why it fell through and how the Redskins ended up or the Commanders ended up at FedEx Field in Landover, Maryland. And do you find the team lost some of their identity moving out of the Washington area?
Well, I think that what happened with Jack and Cook, it was, a lot of red tape going on to get the city there with him in the mayor at the time. And so they never was on the same page to get it done. And, Jack King Cook was sick during that time. And so I think that the reason why it ended up not being in DC is that he wanted a stadium built while he was still living. And so that's the reason why I think it ended more so in Landover, the Landover area, Landover, Maryland, is because he didn't have time to wait to negotiate with DC because it was a lot of things happening where it looked like the deal was not going to happen. But I don't think that you lose the identity of the Washington Redskins at the time to the Washington Commanders now because they were such a football team that was entrenched in the NFL, one of the top teams that you talked about, whether they were winning, losing, but this is a team that has won over the years. When you talk about the NFL, Washington comes to mind with one of the teams that were built from the beginning. So even though it was moved over into the Landover area, you still had the people coming. You just had a bad product on the field. That's where you lost the identity of this team is they weren't winning for a long time under the old regime. And so now I think that once you start winning again, once you see the culture change under this new management and this team is moving forward, that is when you get back to say, we're back to Washington football because this team was a winning team under Jack and Cook. At RFK Stadium, that's where they won their Super Bowls. So I don't think so much that they lost the identity of the Washington football team, Washington Redskins, Washington Commanders. It's just because for a long stretch, this team was not good under the old leadership. And that's what they lost as far as the winning. And now I think that with Josh Harris and with the people that he has in the front office, that in the coaching staff, you're seeing that come back. And I know that we're just talking about 1 year last year. We know that in order to say that this team is back on the right track, but we can say with the things that we've seen so far, with the moving pieces, that they are on the right track. But it comes down to still winning. What will this team do this year on the field? And I think that with the draft, they only have 5 draft picks. I think that they should get an A on that because they did get needed areas to address this team. So that's going to be the key thing is this team still be successful this year on the football field also as they have been off the football field with all these accusations about the stadium and now with the draft being there.
Out of the 5 draft picks, which one or two of those players do you feel can be a starter? And do you feel the Commanders in the offseason with their draft and some free agent and trade moves, bringing in Deebo Samuel, do you feel they've cut the gap between them and the Eagles going into the NFC East next year? Because that's the way I look at it. It's going to be Philly and Washington for the next 5 years battling it out for the East.
Yeah, I'm a person that you got to show me, but I think and you don't know until you see what's being put on the field this season because the Commanders' schedule is much more harder this year, and so you do measure the team because that's the team you lost to in the championship game. And when you look at the Eagles draft, they just got stronger. I mean, if you look at their defensive line, it's one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. Because you looked at them go up in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, and they just pushed them around offensively because of their defense. And Philly is good with their offensive line. So when you look at the Commanders and Philly had so many draft picks this year that just made them better moving forward this year. So the Commanders, with the limited amount of draft picks they had, because they gave some away for Laramie Tunsil, and I think I would have done that because you got another guy on the offensive line to shore that up. I think that 2 of the top picks that I think that will be able to play a lot. I'm not for sure starters, but I see Josh Connolly being a starter because he can play both guard and tackle. So I like that draft pick because when you can get a player that can play multiple positions, it puts you in better position, being that Cosme is not going to be starting this season. And we're not for sure, with that ACL injury, him recovering from that, about that. It takes a minute to come back from that. So he may not be back until towards the end of the season, or even if they get into the playoffs. But I see him being back probably towards the last part of the season. So Josh Connolly's pick was great. And when you think about last year, they got Brandon Coleman, another offensive lineman. So if you look at the Commanders or what they did right now by having Brandon Coleman last year and then Laramie Tunsil, that you got him through free agency, and this is an impact player on that offensive line, and being that you got Josh Connolly, then you like where you're at on the offensive line. You can never add too much depth on the offensive line in the trenches where you're protecting your quarterback, and also you're making your running game much better this year when you shore up the offensive line. Now, the other person that I think that the Commanders did a good job with is Trey Amos. I think that the cornerback position is one that you had to shore up a little bit more too, even with Monshawn Lattimore and last year with Mikey Sandersteele, and then Jonathan Jones that you got in free agency. So adding another piece in your backfield, and this is a guy that is a big cornerback that adds more size, speed, and all of that. I think that you're going to see him on the field a lot. Also, and then Jalen Lane, the wide receiver, the speed guy that's going to help them not only in the wide receiver room, but also more so as far as punt and kickoff returner, because Jamison Crowder was not signed back. So they're probably looking at and putting him there. So he's got multiple dual roles that he can help out this team with. And then the other ones, as far as the linebacker that they drafted, running back, I think at every position that they addressed in the draft, because they had to be savvy with their only 5 draft picks, that they got quality players that's going to be able to help this team. Now, Coach Quinn and all of them always talked about competition, and this is where it lays. So I'm kind of like excited to see them this coming weekend, as we get an opportunity to look at them, and we could just look at them a little bit. But those first 2 positions, I think, are 2 of the key positions because those were needed ones. And Chris, I know we didn't even talk about this, but when you look at the defensive line and everybody is talking about the edge rusher, and I'm concerned right there too, that they didn't address that enough for me. I still think that through free agency that the Commanders brought in a lot of defensive players on the defensive line that I think is going to be able to help this team. So you ask me, where are they at with the Philadelphia Eagles? Have they made some headway? Won't know that for me personally, until we start the season, when we're starting to see in real games of just how much this Commanders team has improved from last year with the acquisitions that they got with the Deebo Samuels and the offensive line players and the defensive line players and the draft players. We got to see all that. Paper is one thing, but it's got to be seen on the field of play. And I think that it's too early to say, have they made some gains on the Philadelphia Eagles? I think that they have helped themselves in what they put forward on through the free agency and the draft and all of that. But again, we have to see how it all plays into place once they get on the field and started gelling, and through the training camps later in July and the OTAs and all of those things. When they started putting things in the playbook, people started learning those things, and the coaches can really get a chance to evaluate everybody. So it's so many pieces that goes into this before you can say, oh, we're right there with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm just looking at, okay, we've done all of our homework, and the Commanders still are going to be putting some pieces in place because it's a lot of free agents out there that still have not signed yet, and the Commanders will be able to probably get them for a steal. And they are so key with these 1-year deals. And I love that about the Commanders. They don't let anything out the bag until it's out the bag. And so I think that, they'll still be getting some people free agency wise. So this roster is not even close to being final before that season's opener in September.
How's the salary cap situation for the Commanders right now currently? And what kind of an impact do you think a healthy Deebo Samuel coming in from the Niners can make on this offense specifically?
Yeah, the one thing good about the Commanders in this year is they set themselves up perfectly for the salary cap. They had a large chunk of change, but this is the key thing that people have to remember with the salary cap is it was really good. It's not like the New Orleans Saints where it's a train wreck down there with the salary cap, but the Commanders have set themselves up perfectly with having the capital in there. And when you think about the players that they signed in free agency, they didn't really spend a whole bunch of money. So they still have to keep that salary cap intact because in a couple of years, you're going to have to sign your quarterback and you want to get him signed, sealed, and deliver before it's even a conversation. And, they're still reworking Terry McLaurin's deal and everything because he's going to be a free agency soon. So I think the Commanders right here with the salary cap, the way they had set themselves up over the past years of not spending a lot of money, because right now they have a lot of ticket areas coming up, especially with their quarterback and making sure that he stays a number 5, a Washington Commander.
Donna, are you okay for another 5 minutes? Couple more questions?
Sure.
I'm kicking myself because I met Jaden Daniels at the draft in Detroit, and I wish I had interviewed him and had a picture with him. But I when I talked to him, he just seemed very down to earth, very humble, and we knew how talented he was. But did you and the media and the fan base think he would develop so quickly in his first year in the NFL coming from college?
Yeah, I think that it's hard to say with how people are going to develop. You're talking about having a new coaching staff that came in, and you have to be able to gel with that. And coming from college to the pros is a big difference, and you have to be able to navigate through all those things. But I think because Jaden Daniels was battle tested, personally and professionally before he even got on the NFL field, that helped his development a little bit more. And I think that what helped Jaden develop even more so is the coaching staff that they put in place. I told someone they had an all-star coaching staff that came with Dan Quinn that were head coaches in with other teams. So I think that the right people were here with Jaden Daniels as far as coaching staff that was able to help him develop a little quicker. And then Jaden Daniel himself was already the top quarterback when he came in here, and his work ethics, his determination, and all the tools that you want as far as to be in the classroom, getting into practice before anybody gets there to watch film, his attitude, his just everything just fell in place as far as who he is as a person. I think that's the reason why. I couldn't foresee that his development like it was. But once you start watching him in practice, once you start watching him in games, each early part of the season where, when you met the team again, you could see his development each and every week. You saw his development. Sometimes you see people digress each week because defenses are throwing so much stuff at you. But Jaden was able to navigate and learn from what he saw, that the next time he saw them, he was able to, read the defenses. He was able to, counteract what they were trying to do against him. So he had this great learning edge that he was able to just absorb the stuff and then not only absorb it, but go back and execute it on the field of play. So that's where I saw his growth each and every game. And so I guess you weren't surprised if you were covering the team where you saw each week his growth. then no, it wasn't a big surprise. But you don't know that going in with anybody that's drafting and everything. You're just hoping that what you saw, in the college ranks and everything really rolls over into the pro where they can jumpstart quick. And that's why I asked Coach Witt, all the coaches that came over here. And I think that's the reason why you saw the success with the Commanders too, is they had a great coaching staff that really was teaching and educating these guys and pulling out the most of where do we fit these guys in to get the most out of them. And as I asked Coach Witt, I said, bringing these coaches over, was that to help you jumpstart quickly where you came out the gates quick? And that's what you saw with the coaching staff, is that they were able, knowing each other and really being able to jumpstart this team and not, play catch up all season long.
What is Dan Quinn's biggest strengths as a head coach, in your opinion?
Just the way he's able to relate to not just them as football players, but as individuals. And I just think that the way he's able to relate to people in general, and then not be so stuck in his ways, but always willing to look at how he can change things to get better. From the Atlanta days, from the Dallas, from when he was head coach there, what he learned from that, and to better it the second time around. But I think it's just his energy and the brotherhood that he's brought to the Washington Commanders that I don't think I've ever seen it here. And I've been covering this team for a long time, to see a true brotherhood like that. And I'm talking about even when the Commanders was winning Super Bowls. This was kind of like just where everybody was on the same page. It was no prima donnas, as Frankie Louvu told me at the end of the season when they were cleaning out the locker room. It was no prima donnas. So that's what I think Dan Quinn brought here. He said, "Hey, he challenged them. Let's get the brotherhood together quickly," and he's genuine. I think that is what I see from him. What you see is what it is. There's no fakeness about it. It's just his way of being able to relate to everybody and pulling out the best of everybody. I think that's key for him. I mean, I was just really impressed with just his coaching style and just how, the excitement that you see from him on the field also. So they buy into that energy that they see from him. So, yeah. I just think it was all those things that he learned the first time around and able to navigate around that, and just how he treats people.
What are the expectations from the Washington media and the fan base from this year? And how important is it for the coaching staff to make sure the team doesn't start reading their press clippings?
Yeah, I just think that the team has to be true to themselves, not so much about what the media projects or anything like that, because I think it comes down to the team. I think if you've ever played sports and everything, it's not about what the media thinks. It's not about what the fans think or projecting this team to be this year, because you just don't know from year to year what team is going to look like. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs for the longest, every year, Super Bowl in there, because they've been able to keep key pieces together. The Philadelphia Eagles have been successful as of late because they've been able to keep pieces together. The Commanders, I think you look at them to be successful, hopefully this year again, because they didn't lose any coaches. So I think that's where I see this team being able to jumpstart where they left off. And as Adam Peters and all those guys told me, is that we start Lance Newmark. We start from the beginning. We start over again. We just don't start from where we left off being in the championship game, because everybody has changed. They've changed as a team too. They've got to start building the building blocks again as far as what this team is going to look like, because it's a lot of different faces. They got their main face still intact as far as Jayden Daniels, and that's the key thing right there. Every year we have to talk about the quarterback position here in Washington. Well, finally, we don't have to talk about that. So that helps this team right now in this year's season, is that at least you have that main piece of your quarterback in place. So again, it's I'm looking at this as a media member, not projecting, that they're going to have this many wins, because I don't like to even play with that. I like to take it as, let me see how this plays out in training camp and all that. But one thing I can say is that this team should be intact because they kept all the coaches. So Jaden Daniel doesn't have to start with somebody else's offensive scheme because he's already been in a Cliff Kingsbury scheme. So that helps him in him staying in place, his quarterback coach staying in place. So all the key places for people that to help Jaden continuously to develop is still in place. And when you think about the defensive side of the ball, although coaches are still in place, they weren't snatched away. Now, they may be if they win this year, but as for this year, this is what puts the Commanders in good shape this year, is that all the coaches are still in place to help develop those people that they drafted last year. They should be much better too, those second-year players from last year. So that's the reason why I say that, you look for this to be an upside still for the Commanders. But again, you got to put it all into place still, because everybody's going to be gunning for you. And how can you improve from last year moving on forward with the roster that you have in place right now? But because of the coaching staff, I'm, positive that this team is going to still be one that you talk about in the NFC East. And I like the NFC East right now because even though you said it's the Philadelphia Eagles and the Commanders, I still think you have a conversation about all the teams in the NFC East, because you got the Giants with Russell Wilson. Although he's not the Russell Wilson of past, at least they've got a veteran quarterback up there. And the Giants defense, let's not joke about that. They are pretty solid, is the Giants defense. Now, they may need to get themselves together on the offensive side of the ball a little bit more, but they're pretty solid on the defensive side of the ball. So if Russell Wilson can help them out, then you're talking about the Giants being right there. The Cowboys, you just don't know about them because with Dak Prescott, we're coming off that injury, and, you just don't know the pieces with Dallas right now with a new coach in place and all of those. So you never know about the Cowboys being out of the conversation. But the key thing is you have to be the Commanders can't worry about nobody else. They just have to worry about themselves. Can't worry about how the Giants have gotten better, Philadelphia Eagles, but how have you gotten better from last year to this year with the acquisitions that you put on this field now, because you lost some people and you gained some people. So we just have to, it's early, it's exciting time. The OTAs are coming in early June before they break for training camp. But you kind of like where this team has positioned themselves for success in the second year under Coach Quinn.
How valuable was those playoff wins? Obviously at Tampa Bay, then going into Detroit and beating a very good Detroit team, and then unfortunately running into a buzzsaw from the Philadelphia Eagles for experience for the younger players.
I think it's key. I mean, anytime that you can have multiple games in the playoff, because it's turned up in 3 or 4 different notches, Chris, in the playoffs and everything. And for the Commanders to be able to go into Detroit and do what they did against Detroit, that's pretty impressive right there. And then, move on to, the championship game. I mean, I think they had to go past Tampa first, and then go past Tampa. That was a tough game, and then go into Detroit. And you think about this, Washington was on the road the whole time, and to be able to win games on the road the way they did, and the experience for the younger players of what it takes to get there, and the fact that you almost were at that Super Bowl, so you got that taste in your mouth, like we want to get back there. So the more games that you can play with that caliber of teams in the playoff, the better that you can build come this year. So you know what to expect. You know what it takes to get over the hump to the next level. And the Philadelphia Eagles showed that with what they did in getting past the Commanders, who they faced 3 times, and the Commanders got them the second time around. But again, that experience of facing them, and, that's a divisional game, so that's a different conversation. But what the Philadelphia Eagles had to do in facing the Kansas City Chiefs, and and being able to dominate them. I mean, they just blew them off the field. So I think the Commanders learned a lot by that playoff run, which helps them again build for this year.
How important was it to bring back veteran tight end Zach Ertz and linebacker Bobby Wagner and even quarterback Marcus Mariota for the 2025 season?
I think that that's another win for the Commanders in helping this team stay together this year. I can't say enough about what Bobby Wagner added to this team last year, and what he his experience, his play still is at top level, and how he even befriended and got to be great friends with Jayden Daniels, and that relationship in helping him and helping some of the other younger players, and Zach along with Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota, when I was talking to him throughout the season, and even, as they signed him back, and what he has done to really help Jayden Daniels and even his own career, what he's learned, that he's able to relay to Jayden about the process of what he learned, in the early stages of his career, that he can help Jayden Daniels through. You can't buy that. That is so valuable. And just his attitude and wanting to really help Jayden. I think it's just a good mix between quarterbacks of them really having each other's back. And like I said, Zach has said that they'd have made him, he wish he had Jayden Daniels when, at the early part of his career. So just his leadership and his work ethics and everything helps this team and helps the younger guys so much. Because if you've ever seen, what Zach does, and the Commanders knowing how to handle the older players, that they're not at practice all week long, that they get a day off, that's preserving their bodies. That's smart coaching. But I think that all three of those players that you mentioned, Bobby, Zach, and Marcus, they are key building pieces for the success of this team, is to keep them on this roster. Not that they're just on this roster as leaders. That's one thing, but these guys can still play. That's the other thing, is that they make everybody better around them because of what they do on and off the field and because of their leadership. And most people just thinking like leadership. No, these guys can still play.
And this Commanders team, from my point as an outsider, has a good mixture of young players, but veterans that can still play at a high performance. And this team seems to be set up for long-term success, not just one good year. It looks like they can be consistent for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, this is, every year you're going to have transition. So, that's the thing that I look. So I don't look like long, but I think that this team is placing themselves in for success for the long run. So I just think that what's in place right now for this team and moving forward with, with building success and everything, it starts with the front office, Adam Peters. I mean, that's where it starts with Lance Newmark, Josh Harris, letting the keys be given to them to basically put this team in place and being willing to be that great backer. But it starts with that GM room and those guys right there and this coaching staff. You can only be as good as the front wheels that makes the vehicle go. And that's what you look at with this team, is that they've got the right people driving this vehicle in putting this team in place to move forward. So I like I said, I like where they're headed and everything in their second year under this leadership. And there's so many things happening right now with this team when you think about them headed into the OTAs and rookie mini camps and all of that, is that, you talk about a new stadium again, you're talking about the draft being here, and now this team has to take some air to say, hey, when it's all said and done, the most important thing is what we put on the field this year and how we play as the Washington Commanders the second year under this leadership. And it won't mean nothing if you don't put a winning product on this field again this year. And I believe that they'll do just that.
Finally, Donna, where can my audience follow you on social media, your website, and how can people help out with an online donation to the Hopkins Breast Cancer?
Yeah, I mean, with the Breast Cancer Foundation, I ran that for over 25 years, and we closed our doors this year.
Okay.
Not that I'm going away from helping the cancer community, but just my foundation went away after 25 years. I've just moved on to help out with the amputee community and still with the cancer community, not just under my umbrella. So I would just say go and support your local cancer community foundations if you can help them out. I mean, that I think that's key right there. And you can follow me, not only Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus, which is on Mid-Atlantic Sports Net MASN. And if you can't get that, we always post it on our YouTube channel. And you can also catch us for all the latest content and everything on our podcast in the minute. So we just dropped a lot of stuff last week. We'll be dropping a lot as far as the camp this week that's taking place. So it's in the minute, YouTube channel. You can catch it there. And then on social media, Donna Hopkins _ Twitter, and then Instagram, DJ Hop 32, and then Facebook. I don't know if many people use that, but again, those are the ways that you can kind of like catch up with what we're doing on the show. And with all the Commanders' latest news. And I say, park your car in those areas if you want to know the latest and the greatest things about the Washington Commanders.
Will you be attending the many training camps as well?
I will. That's the reason why I say that, you check our podcast out in the minute. We'll be dropping some contents in there. Talking to some of the new draftees and watching what they do this coming weekend. So this week on the podcast, we'll be doing something on that right after, the practice. So in the minute, go to our YouTube channel to check out that. And don't forget our podcast, follow, like, and all of that. We take your comments and all those things. So we would love for you to follow up on our Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus on our YouTube page, and then also on our podcast. We would love for you to follow us on that, because that's the one that we really give you a lot of the in-depth interviews with the players and all that. So please follow.
And even though I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I will definitely be happy to subscribe and follow. And Donna, I want to say thank you for being my Washington Commanders insider here as well. And hopefully one day I'll get to meet you in person.
Oh, definitely. So we'll talk throughout the season, because you know what? Both of us are in the NFC East. Doesn't get any better than that.
And absolutely. And being in Canada, I cover the Canadian Football League, which starts up their training camp in a couple of weeks from now. So right. being in Canada, I get football about 9.5, 10 months of the year, and love it. Absolutely love our football and obviously the NFL. But Donna, I want to say continued success. And we'll definitely keep in touch with you. And I will send you a video copy and audio copy and break this into reels as well. And you do have an open invite to come back on live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show again in the future as a guest.
Thank you so much, Chris. Looking forward to it. It's been fun.
Thank you so much, Donna. And we'll talk to you soon. All right, guys, that was Donna Hopkins. She is a co-host and reporter with Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus, covering the Washington Commanders and some sports as well. And Donna is also very active with her charity work as well. So please follow Donna on Twitter, X, and she's also on Instagram. And she has a website too, I think it's DonnaJHopkins.com. If I have my glasses on, but the print's small. And you can follow her on YouTube as well. So I have all her social media platforms on the graphics before. So if you're a fan of the National Football League, a fan of the Washington Commanders, check out Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus show and Donna Hopkins as well. And before we wrap the show up, guys, I'm going to show you a little clip from the Washington Commanders YouTube channel about their new stadium. Hopefully will be built on the site of the old RFK Stadium.
I can still hear the crowds. When I first stepped into RFK Stadium, I knew I'd found a home. The roar of the fans, the energy of the city, united as one, was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. RFK Stadium was the stage for the world's greatest in sports, culture, and entertainment, all in the heart of our nation's capital. It's time to revive that legacy. Let's bring the Commanders home. A new stadium will serve as the anchor for the RFK site, unlocking new opportunities for generations to come. This means new housing, new restaurants, retail, and public spaces are all possible. The stadium development will create new access to the Anacostia waterfront while preserving some of our city's treasures. A world-class city deserves a world-class stadium, uniting a sea of burgundy and gold. Something that unites us in our pride for the district. The time is now. Let's bring Washington back to D.C.
That clip was courtesy of the Washington Commanders of the National Football League's YouTube channel. And it's exciting time right now with the Washington Commanders coming off a 12-5 season last year, second in the NFC East, and then 3 exciting playoff games, wins at Tampa Bay, upsetting the Lions at Ford Field, and then unfortunately running into a buzzsaw, losing 55-23 to the Super Bowl champion Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field. But along with Jaden Daniels and this young roster, I feel this Commanders team is going to compete with the Eagles for the NFC East for the next 5 years. And they've only played the Eagles twice in the playoffs. Between the Eagles and Washington's history, only twice. The 1990 NFC wildcard game at Veterans Stadium, where Washington won. And then last year, with only their second ever playoff meeting with Philadelphia, with the Eagles winning 55-23 as well. And in case you guys just joined us, the NFL draft is going to be in Washington, D.C. in 2027. So 2027, the NFL draft will be in Washington. And they possibly, if city council in Washington, D.C. passes it, they could have a new stadium on that site of RFK Stadium by 2030, and maybe even possibly in the next 7 years, even possibly host a Super Bowl in Washington, D.C. as well. So things are really looking up for the Washington Commanders under new owner Josh Harris, who owns the Philadelphia Sixers as well, and general manager Adam Peters, who's done a great job in Washington. So the Washington Commanders are a team to be reckoned with in the NFC for the next 5 years, along with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions as well. And I feel Deebo Samuel is a big addition, and former Eagles tight end Zach Ertz still has a lot left in the gas tank as well, and they re-signed him along with Bobby Wagner. So I want to say thank you to Donna Hopkins again from Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus show for coming on here today. Please check out her social media sites and Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus show, which is on YouTube as well if you're out of the Washington, D.C. area. I got another announcement, everybody, and that is the next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is going to take place tomorrow, Tuesday, May 6th. That's Tuesday, May 6th. I'm jumping ahead of myself, or in the past. Tuesday, May 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, and this is her first appearance. Her name is Christine Ford. She is a certified life coach, energy healer, and psychic medium, known for guiding powerful and personal professional transformations since 2017. So Christine Ford will join us tomorrow at 3 o'clock for season 10, episode 38 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph. And speaking of Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, check out a 2025 Equinox LT all-wheel drive midnight edition, lease from $218 bi-weekly. That's like $109 weekly. at 5.5%, $3,900 down payments on an ultra low kilometer lease. More details at barrycullen.com or drop by Barry Cullen Chevrolet at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automall. Barry Cullen Chevrolet, a proud sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And I want to say thank you to Ted McPherson and the service consultants at Barry Cullen Chevrolet for looking after my vehicle's needs today. And I've known Ted McPherson. He used to be my high school teacher at Centennial here in Guelph. So Barry Cullen Chevrolet, just besides great products of GM products, Cadillac products, they have really good customer service. So please support local, support Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Again, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automall. Check out barrycullen.com or give them a call at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you. As we wrap up this show, guys, you can check me out on Cameo. Yes, I'm on the Cameo family. Cameo.com/Chris Palme and book your Cameo today. Personalized video message from CDP. And as we wrap up the show, guys, I am also on another website or another social media site at Live with CDP 19 on Blue Sky Social if you'd like to follow me there as well. If you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge and District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org. Right now, they're looking for dog food, cat food, wet puppy food. They're looking for cat litter. If you have towels, bedding, you name it, they're looking for help there as well. And every Wednesday, the Cambridge District Humane Society has a pet emergency fund for people who are struggling financially in the Cambridge area. Please consider donating some pet food, dog food, cat food, or making a cash donation as well. And if you're looking to adopt a pet, all their profiles are on cambridgehumanesociety.org. And if you're looking to volunteer like I do twice a week as a dog walker down at the Cambridge District Humane Society, you can fill out a volunteer application form through their website as well. So any food, any toys, treats you have, or make a cash donation in person or online, please consider helping out the Cambridge and District Humane Society. They do wonderful work with our homeless furry friends as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. You can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. I am back on TikTok, everybody, for now. I'm on TikTok. My new page is at Chris Palme. Make sure you hit follow. I post a lot of content there, and now I do a lot of lives on TikTok. So please look for me on TikTok. Follow me at Chris Palme. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans or paid professional plans like I do. And if you're a business that does a lot of webinars, live streaming, go to StreamYard.com and contact the sales department for pricing there as well. And I have been with StreamYard now for over 4 years. I highly recommend it. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the audio version is on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. And please remember to hit subscribe and follow Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show on those audio platforms as well. Finally, guys, you can email the show at Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpalme19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you'd like to tip the host or tip tip the host and you like this talk show and my media work, I am on PayPal, cpame19@gmail.com if you ever wish to tip the host through PayPal, cpame19@gmail.com. And finally, guys, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, everywhere except Snapchat. And also, I want to say thank you to everyone for subscribing and watching my YouTube channel. I am only 4 subscribers away from 600. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like notification. And to those people, thank you so much for subscribing and viewing my YouTube channel as well. And before we wrap up our show, guys, we've got 2 NHL Stanley Cup playoff games tonight. Florida and the Leafs. Game 1 tonight of the semifinals at Scotiabank Arena at 8 p.m. And then we have the Edmonton Oilers taking on the Vegas Golden Knights tonight at 9:30. So the second round starts tonight. Toronto and Florida, game 1 in Toronto. Edmonton and Vegas in Vegas, game 1. And then we have NBA playoffs. We've got the Knicks and Celtics tonight, game 1. And then Denver and Oklahoma City, game 1 as well. And then Tuesday night, we've got the Capitals taking on Carolina on Tuesday night as well. And congratulations to the Winnipeg Jets for advancing to the second round. They'll be facing Dallas soon. Winnipeg won 4-3 over St. Louis in double overtime last night in Game 7. Former Saginaw Spirit Cole Perfetti on a beautiful tip-in tied the game up with 1.6 seconds left. A devastating loss to the St. Louis Blues, but congratulations to the Winnipeg Jets. And there's 3 Canadian hockey teams still going on in the Stanley Cup playoffs going in the second round. That's the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Edmonton Oilers. And I do predict one of those 3 Canadian teams will end the Canadian Stanley Cup drought. The last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup was the 1993 Montreal Canadiens. So it's been 32 years since a Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup. So I'm looking forward to that. And as for Major League Baseball, the best team in the American League is off today. The Detroit Tigers are on their final road trip before they come back home. They lost 2 out of 3 in Houston and then rebounded, winning 3 out of 4 in Anaheim against the Los Angeles Angels. Yesterday, winning 13-1. So the Tigers right now are 22-13, first in the AL Central, first in the American League. And the Tigers now have a 3-game road series to finish up this 11-game road series against the Colorado Rockies. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the Tigers then will be back at Comerica Park next weekend. And speaking of the Detroit Tigers, I will be seeing the Tigers play the Blue Jays in the Rogers Center on Saturday, May 17th. It'll be my first Jays and Tigers game in 6 years, and I haven't been to the Rogers Center since 2019, so I'm looking forward to that game as well. And that is about it for today's show. I want to say thank you to Donna Hopkins, a co-host and reporter with Tony McGee's Football Plus, for coming on and talking Washington Commanders football with us. And I'm looking forward to my next show tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow, Tuesday, May 6th at 3 p.m. with special guest Christine Ford, certified life coach, energy healer, and psychic medium as well. So 3 p.m. And this is all brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph. I hope everybody has a great night. Enjoy the NBA playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and Major League Baseball. And we'll see you back here tomorrow at 3 for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, hosted by yours truly, Chris Pame. Have a great day, everybody.